Moving CJ Hicks to defensive end isn't just a position change, it's unlocking his full potential.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. During today's show, we'll discuss why Patricia's transition from the NFL to college won't be that difficult, as well as what Patricia wants from the Buckeyes defense. But first, every offseason, Ryan Day is trying to do two things: find ways to maximize the talent on the team and unlock the full potential of every player. Sometimes to do that, you have to move a guy from receiver to tight end. You may have to move it from linebacker to running back. But whatever the case may be, you're trying to accomplish those two goals. In regards to CJ Hicks moving from linebacker to defensive end, it's a way for Ohio State to accomplish both of those goals. And it's going to be one of the things Matt Patricia is going to love in the fall. Having a guy with CJ Hicks' skill set, with the hunger that he has every time he's on the field, to utilize him on the edge every single down, it's great for the Buckeyes defense, as well as the Buckeyes' pursuit of having an elite defense in back-to-back years. CJ Hicks' move to defensive end is great for his final year in Columbus, Ohio. It's one of those things that last year you saw him start to play on the edge a little bit, knowing that he was in the LB room, but maybe the best case for him was to play off the edge and be an edge rusher. Didn't get a lot of reps out there, and I think it's one of the things that kind of set him back. When he's in that room full-time, as Larry Johnson confirmed last week during his media availability, we're going to see CJ Hicks be the player that's going to go off in the fall, because he's doing this every single day, and you're having a guy in Larry Johnson that knows how to push the right button to get the best play out of the guys in his room. And don't you want a guy like that on the edge that can allow your defense to be a little bit more multiple? Now, you're not going to ask CJ Hicks to be in a three-point stance. That's not where he's going to stand. Standing at currently 6'3", 233 pounds. If he was going to put his hand in the dirt and then go off that way to get to the edge or get to the quarterback, you would want him to add at least 20 pounds, and I don't think that's in the cards for CJ Hicks right now. He may have to add a little bit of weight, but you're going to keep that speed, keep his ability to bend around the edge, keep his ability to set the edge as well. I mean, there's so many things you're going to want CJ Hicks to do on a down-to-down basis that he's going to be able to do now because he's in that room every single day. For the future for Ohio State, as far as the starting defense, we've already kind of speculated that Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Caden Curry are going to be the starting defensive ends. They're going to be fresher in the fall than maybe Tuamaloa or Sawyer were late in the year, because they're not going to be asked to play every single down. It wouldn't shock me at all if they bring Hicks onto the field and Caden Curry goes off, but Jackson Jr. is on the other side. Because Kenyatta Jackson Jr.'s size and frame, and when you look at him get off the bus, you look like, oh, that dude plays in the NFL? No, he plays at Ohio State. He has the makeup of an NFL guy. And a couple years ago, Ryan Day already made a comment about Kenyatta Jackson Jr., stating that he looks like an NFL player already. And he wasn't a starting defensive end. He wasn't a guy that you saw play down after down after down. No, he just had the makeup of an NFL player. And I think CJ Hicks, when trying to figure out a way to tap into his full potential and unlock that thing, you might be looking at a guy that can turn this position change into being a NFL player in the future. Right now, I have no idea if he's going to be able to be an NFL player at the end of the day. I have no idea. If you unlock a player's full potential, and that is being great, being a really good college player, but not being in the NFL, I had no problem with that. None whatsoever. There are guys at Ohio State right now that are trying to get drafted that I don't see a path for them to play in the NFL. I could name a few guys. I'll say that for the draft coverage, but some of you may know the guys I'm thinking about. It's just going to be very hard for them to transition from college to the NFL. Hicks, however, could turn this into him being an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense in the National Football League. One thing Larry Johnson said that I think is very, very wise about him, and he says about CJ Hicks' skill set and some things that he wants to do With CJ Hicks, it's have him play every single down. Quote, he has a really good skill set, so we can use him in a lot of ways, but we don't want to use him just third down, right? We want to use him first and second down. So my job is to get him ready to play the run from on the line of scrimmage as opposed to being in space. That's different. And once we accomplish that as we go, then I think he'll have a chance to get us some great depth and really do some great things for us. I'm excited about him because he's really excited about the position change, end quote. One other thing Larry Johnson said that I think is going to be eye-opening to a lot of people out there is that with CJ Hicks out there, you can use one personnel and be multiple and show different looks. Maybe you want to run a 4-2-5, but you want to transition into a 3-3-5 by simply changing the way a guy positions himself. Okay. But then you want to go from a 4 down to a 5 down to a 6 down. Now, it's not all down linemen, but you want to have a 5-man look with 3 down linemen and 2 linebackers. You can do that. If you want to have a 6-man look with 4 D linemen and then 2 good backers on the outside or a backer and a safety, you can do that. And with Hicks, you're not just having a guy out there at the 2-point stance that's similar to Sawyer or Timalowau. Well, those guys are athletic. They don't have the same skill set. They don't have the same bendiness. They don't have the same flexibility that Hicks has. So having him out there, you're kind of viewing him as a guy that might be viewed as a rush end, but the difference is he's getting those reps every single day. And not just a rush end that's just trying to rush upfield to go get the quarterback, but a guy that can rush the quarterback or play the run, kind of be that Swiss Army knife. The all-around type of player you want on the edge that Ohio State's been desperately looking for. In that capacity, not just saying, this isn't me saying Tuimoloau and Sawyer were not great on the edge. I'm not saying that. But Ohio State's was looking more for that guy that can be that hybrid linebacker. Maybe that was a Mitchell Melton position in the fall, but he ended up going to the portal. Maybe there was a thought that somebody else in the past could have been that guy. Didn't turn out, which is great. While the other things didn't pan out, I think this one is going to. You're trying to maximize the talent on the team and unlock the full potential of every player. Speaking of maximizing the talent, isn't this going to be similar to what Ohio State's doing with the quarterback room? Not so much moving guys' positions, but trying to find a way to maximize the talent of a singular player, but not only maximize the talent of that player, the guy that's going to be the starting quarterback, you're trying to figure out a guy that can maximize the talent of the other 10 guys that are on the Buckeye starting offense. With Jeremiah Smith and a Cardinal Tate and a Brandon Ennis and a Will Kazmarek and the 5-0 lineman and the guy behind him toting the rock. You want to find a guy that can maximize the talent of every player on the Buckeyes offense. It's hard to figure that thing out. It's going to take some time. You got a few more weeks and months to decide who the right guy is to lead the Buckeyes offense and to maximize every talent on that side of the ball. For Hicks, you got a few more weeks and months to work on him, to get those reps in, to help him be an every down player off the edge. It's possible. Do I think this is the best move for him? Absolutely. Is it the best move for Ohio State to be more multiple? Absolutely. And this move is going to help Ohio State accomplish one of the goals Matt Patricia has for the Buckeyes defense. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks with a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled trade professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your time. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. And start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Thank you all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. CJ Hicks is a player that when he came out of high school, I was very high on, and I thought as an outside backer in the Buckeyes 4-2-5 look, he would have been great. It took him a little bit more time to get things to click. All of a sudden, position change is going to help him play fast and aggressive. It's also going to help the Buckeyes defense play fast and aggressive as well. And those two words, or those three words, fast and aggressive, are the things that Matt Patricia wants from the Buckeyes defense. Play fast and play aggressive. Now, to do those two things, you got to have the right guys in the right places as well. But you also have to have a coach that's going to help you do that. And Matt Patricia recently made some comments in regards to how Ohio State is going to play fast and aggressive in the fall. Quote, I think the beauty of football, and definitely something I learned at New England, was take the extremely complex and let's try to boil it down to maybe 3 to 5 things, really simple, so we can really detail that out as much as possible. Yes, we have lots of packages and all that stuff, but I always felt going into a game, my whole goal was I just want to make sure they can go play fast and play aggressive. So I don't want to have too much where they can't do that. I want them to be able to go play, end quote. He goes on to make some further comments about this very topic. Quote, they play, I'm not playing, they play the game. So let them get on the field, let them play fast, end quote. I could keep on going, but you get the gist. He wants Ohio State's defense to play fast. He wants Ohio State's defense to play aggressive. Those are the two things I think every head coach and every coordinator, no matter the side of the ball, wants those guys to play. If you're on offense, you want your team to play fast. You also want them to play aggressive. If you're on defense, you want an aggressive nature in every player, and you want them to get to go and play with a reckless abandon that puts fear in the guys on the other side of the ball. Every single guy. But to hear him break it down this way, to talk about things he learned in New England, you got some things that are complex, but you got to kind of simplify it at times to make it very easy for the player. That's huge. And this is not his way of saying that these guys aren't smart. No, not at all. It's just saying, why should I make something so complex? It takes guys months to figure it out when I can make the complex simple. And by making it simple, they're able to pick it up quicker. It's the same concept, but simply illustrated by me in the coaching room. And they're going to go out there and not even think and just play fast. One thing I did recently was talk to a coach. I was actually at a basketball game. I ran into a coach I talked to quite a bit. And he talked about a player that was in college and is now in the portal. And talked about some things he did for that particular player in high school to help him on the football field. One of the things he said was he made things simple. He didn't try to make it really complex. He tried to simplify everything so players didn't have to think. He just did things to help them play faster. This past year was at one of his games, and after the game, I talked to him, and he displayed that there was a quarterback that was struggling, and the quarterback was really having a tough time reading things and fumbled. I think he fumbled the snap, and then maybe a play or two later threw an interception. Next thing you know, the next time they're out there on the field, baby, it was a hurry-up offense with a nice tempo. Score. I think they scored the next 3 or 4 drives, their next 3 or 4 drives. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, why? Simplified it. He literally took the guesswork out of it. He said, if you're struggling right now, why in the world should I allow you to continue to struggle when I can help you not struggle like you are? And it worked so well. For Ohio State in the fall, there's going to be a lot of guys that hadn't played this much ball game after game after game. You're losing 8 of your 11 starters. You got Caleb Downs still. You still got Sonny Styles. You still got IGB. Matthews Jr. started a little bit. You got some guys that play a lot in Caden McDonald and Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Caden Curry. I mean, you got some guys that play a lot of ball, but not as often as they have. And one thing that could be a kind of a cancer, you may want to say, in the upcoming season is if you try to make things super complex for guys that are new starters, and by making those things complex, it turns into a team that can't mesh, a team that doesn't have the chemistry like you would expect from an Ohio State team, you start discussing a lot of things that you saw from the defense of 2024 that are lacking from the defense of 2025. How do you fix that? Simplify things. I heard that after the Oregon loss this past year, Jim Knowles went into a game with less calls. Didn't have as much stuff to end up calling, which allows the preparation for the players to be a lot simpler. If you know your coach is going to call less stuff and he's going to try to simplify and shorten the game plan for a particular week, that's going to help you stay sharp. Remember, these kids are balancing school, playing football, a personal life. They may be in a relationship. They have friends back home that want to pull them one way. They have family and friends. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that these players are into, but also that they're trying to pull them one way or another. You got coaches all over the country that are tampering with these players. You have NIL opportunities that people need to fulfill. There's so much going into being a college football player. Then you add into you playing for Ohio State, and that just means you got that X on your back. And you know X marks a spot. There's so much that is going on with these young athletes. And then you want to add stuff going on outside of school, that maybe going on around the world or locally there in Columbus, that can get their attention and cause them to lose focus. So what can Matt Patricia do? Exactly what he's trying to do. Simplify everything so the players can play fast and aggressive. What we saw a year ago was Ohio State's defense played the way that people think it should be played. No, not just people. The defense was playing the way it's supposed to be played. Fast, aggressive, with a hunger that other teams can't handle, with a reckless abandon that puts fear in opposing quarterbacks. Think back to the Indiana game a year ago. I was talking to somebody about that game probably this past week and how Curtis Work, really good quarterback, played great ball last year. He had no time last year, and the time that when he had time when he was going up against Ohio State defense, he was fearful that he was going to have less time before the balls even snapped. Credit to Ohio State. Oh my, Cody Simon, don't know why his name slipped my mind. Cody Simon, Sawyer Tumaloa, all those guys, Tyler Williams were instrumental in Curtis Work having his internal clock sped up, and it really messed him up. Now, as Curtis Work's internal clock was messed up, who else might have a sped up internal clock in the fall? Now, you know that Luke Altmaier is one of those guys that I probably wasn't planning on saying first, but he's at Illinois, and he's a good quarterback. I'm not going to say he's sad. He's a good quarterback. And Ohio State's playing Illinois in the fall for the first time in a while. The Ella Book's on the line. Ohio State's a more talented team. Ohio State should have no problem handling the Fighting Illini and Brett Bielema's squad. However, you can speed up that quarterback's clock. Week 1, Arch Manning. You can speed up his clock too. I know the Manning factor puts fear and a lot of heat, but just because you say, oh, he's a part of the Manning lineage. Oh, yeah, his dad was the most athletic of Arch Manning's boys, but unfortunately he had to retire early due to an injury. You take all that into account, oh, man, that may put some fear in Ohio State's defense player saying, man, Arch Manning, he's a Manning. His dad is one of the most athletic guys and maybe the best football player overall at the time when he was playing in high school football. And, man, what if Arch is like his dad? And what if he's like his uncles and even his grandpa? Man, that could really light us up. No. Simplify things to the players, which is also going to make things easier for you as a coach. And it will allow the players to play faster and to play more aggressive. Well, Matt Patricia wants that from the Buckeyes defense in the fall. The transition from the NFL to college is one that used to be hard, but I doubt it's going to be that difficult for Matt Patricia. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Thank you all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. Matt Patricia coming to college for the first time in a long time. It's one transition that might make people think the timing is wrong because college football has never been more complex than it's ever been. Recruiting is harder. NIL is very, very difficult. The transfer portal makes roster retention a whole lot harder than it's ever been. There are so many things that make college football very, very difficult. You add in online classes versus in-person classes and how an athlete might be able to handle both of those. There's a lot that goes into a guy going back to a place that he hasn't been in over 20 years. But for Matt Patricia, the time off in 2024 was huge. I mean, physically, when you look at him, he looks like a different person. I went back and looked at a clip from when he was speaking to the media recently, and I thought it was Matt Guerreri. Now, I know Matt Guerreri and Matt Patricia don't look the same, but the haircuts and their beards and really their slender frames, they look very, very similar. That's not the way I look at Matt Patricia at all. But that's just one example about how Matt Patricia took some time off in his year off in between being with the Eagles in 23 until now to work on some stuff. He worked on himself, worked on even the potential transition from going from the NFL and going back to college. He studied the college game, figured out, well, the differences between college and the NFL, they aren't as drastic as they used to be. And as people talk about all these horror stories, he realizes, no, I see no horror story. This is just real life. This is football. There are way more similarities between these two levels of football than there have ever been. And that's a big deal for a guy who is trying to really change the narrative about him. If you just looked at Matt Patricia from when he was in New England, you wouldn't really have a bad thing to say about him at all as far as being a football coach. Yeah, there's some off-the-field stuff and the sexual assault case in 96 that has a lot of people wondering, is he the guy? Has he learned his lesson from what happened back in the late 90s or mid-90s? Is this going to be a repeat offender? I mean, these are things people are asking and thinking about. I'm not here to speculate one way or another. I do not at all discuss legal matters here on the show. That is one thing I do not do. If we had someone from the legal side of life on the show, maybe they could do that. I don't have that thought or expertise. So I don't even try to tackle that stuff. But Ryan Day had to. Ryan Day had to tackle that, had to tackle the transition from NFL back to college, had to tackle the type of defense he wanted to run. He had to make sure this was the right fit. And Ryan Day believes that Patricia coming to Ohio State is definitely the right fit. And while it might be the right fit, that means the transition is going to be not so much seamless, but it's going to be one that's manageable. And I have no idea if Matt Patricia is planning on being at Ohio State for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. I have no idea. But part of being the right fit is Ryan Day realizing you may only get a guy at this caliber, get this in particular person for 1 year. You may get him for 2. 3 is a luxury. That's a dream scenario. But you may only get him for 1. And you want to maximize his talent. We talked about earlier about maximizing the talent of the team and every single player and unlocking the full potential of everybody on the roster. The same thing goes for the coaching staff. I mean, Ryan Day wants to maximize the potential and unlock the full potential of Matt Patricia, Matt Guerreri, Brian Hartline. I mean, name the coach. You could say Ryan Day wants to maximize the potential of that player. It's true. Any coach wants to do that. Any coach worth anything wants to do that. Sure, there are coaches out there that only think about them and they have the me, myself, and Irene type of attitude, and they don't want to go away from what works for them. And if you try to come in and I'll add some creativity or some flash, they say, no, this is what we do. We stick to the book. We stick to the formula that's worked for decades. We're not going to change. Okay, that may be true, but sometimes you got to change to get the goal you want. And for Matt Patricia, maybe his ultimate goal, I have no idea what his ultimate goal is, but let's just speculate for a little bit. Maybe Matt Patricia's ultimate goal is to get back to the National Football League. A year ago, could he have been hired? It's possible. Was he hired? No. We're not speculate about what may have happened. We know what did happen. He didn't have a job in the National Football League. And let's just say that his ultimate goal is to get back to the highest level. What's the best way to do that if you want to go down to a lower level to get back to the top? Go to a team that just won the national championship. Huh, look at that. The former D coordinator is gone. Ryan Day is looking for somebody. Ryan Day has some great internal candidates, but what do you find? Ryan Day goes outside of the box to find a guy that he believes is the right fit. And just like when Chip Kelly was at Ohio State, Ryan Day and Kelly had conversations before the season, possibly when he was even hired, to discuss this may be a one-hit wonder. You come in, run the offense for a little bit, and then maybe you go back to the NFL, you can hit yourself a payday, and have some fun. And what happened? Chip Kelly came to Ohio State, had a payday at Ohio State. Well, not so much a payday. He took a pay cut to get a payday down the road. Also, in the process, you won the Natty. So you bring a guy in for 1 year. He runs your offense. He helps you with the creativity for the run game. He helps teach Brian Hartline and some of the other offensive coaches a lot of the stuff that he's learned along the way. He leaves with the ring, leaves with some memories, and gets a $4 million pay bump by going to the Raiders to be the OC. Great. It's a great move for Chip Kelly. It works out to perfection for Ohio State. It works out to perfection for Ohio State. For Matt Patricia, it might be the same thing. You go from not having a job in the NFL in 2023, 24, 25, you're coming to Ohio State, you're going to get paid a couple mil. All of a sudden, you may turn the thing into being a $4 or $5 or $6 million a year D coordinator at the National Football League. You can't be mad about that. Ohio State's a place just similar to when Nick Saban was at Alabama. You're going to keep coordinators for 1 or maybe 2 years, and they're going to go off somewhere else and have and further their careers. Maybe they go to the NFL. Maybe they go and they become a head coach somewhere else. Whatever it is, you're going to find out you're not going to keep them long. Think about Steve Sarkisian, a great offensive mind, phenomenal, was at Alabama when Alabama beat Ohio State in the national championship in the 2020 season. What happened after that? Steve Sarkisian leaves Alabama, goes to Texas, becomes a head coach, and he's done great. Got to the national semifinal this past year. Just happened to run into Ohio State, the team that won the Natty. But what is this? A scenario where a well-respected coach in the sport took a job with Nick Saban, knowing that he could help utilize that to further his career and to get to where he wanted to be. And worked out to perfection. That may be the same thing for Brian Hartline. It may be the same thing for Matt Guerrieri down the road where these guys are coordinators for 1 or 2 years. They do a lot of great things at Columbus. And then what's next? They further their careers. Also, they may stick around. You may have a Bud Foster, was a Frank Beamer scenario where Bud Foster stays at Virginia Tech for 20 years as the D coordinator? It's highly unlikely. 1, him doing that even in that era was odd. But 2, in the area we're currently in, that would be even odder because coaches don't do that. People in general don't do that. But it's possible. I like Matt Patricia hire. There were times I was trying to talk myself into it. There are certain things I have questions about. I'll talk about those later. For the most part, in regards to what he wants from the defense, playing fast and aggressive, kind of call that a no-brainer. But also going from the NFL to college, there are more similarities than there used to be, which will make this easier for Matt Patricia than maybe some other coaches throughout the history of football. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes right here on a Monday and making this show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here to be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Monday. We'll see you next time.